So yeah, should be recording now hopefully. So yeah, today I wanted to make a video that goes over some of the core gameplay concepts and tips that I've used all of my Currency Wars runs. I've seen a lot of comments asking about certain things that I do, like rerolling, buying out shops, setting the pool, you know, things like that, that I usually just kind of do on my own, just automatically, just from having played other auto chess like games in the past and stuff, like TFT, for example, Teamfight Tactics. I played that a lot, so I figured I would make a video that puts all of these like little things that I do and explains them all in like one area. So yeah, I'm not sure how much of this was actually covered in the tutorial, because I think some of this will have been in the tutorial, but I kind of just like skipped through the tutorial brain off and just went through it as quickly as I could because I played auto battlers before, so I already kind of knew all the mechanics and stuff. But yeah, this kind of video is just for people that aren't really as familiar with the mechanics and everything. I figured that it'd be good to kind of have it all in one place, because I've had a few comments that I've like responded to and have helped people figure out some stuff, but yeah, just putting it all here today. So yeah, these first few tips are general tips that you can apply to almost every run, while later ones will be a little bit more situational and can help you in more like niche situations, but they're still fairly universal. They're just not necessarily as common. So yeah, we're gonna just go ahead and go into a game that I've already kind of went through a little bit, just so that way I can kind of explain things a little bit. Yeah, here we go. So the first tip I would say is to build up your interest. So as you can see, at the bottom of the screen here is your like inventory of coins and everything, your balance. So this, in my opinion, is the single most aspect, or like important aspect, of Currency Wars. Runs kind of live and die by currency in Currency Wars, so it's important to understand like how to have a lot of money and stuff. So you get gold for completing rounds, and then you also can get a little bit of extra gold after you've completed a round, depending on how much gold you had going into that round. So every multiple of 10, so 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50, you'll get an extra gold as interest, and it'll be 1 extra coin at 10 gold, 2 at 20, 3 at 30, 4 at 40, and 5 at 50, which is the cap. So it's ideally like, it's the main idea is just to try to have your gold around 50. That said, if you're on a losing streak and your health's getting low, you can dip around to 25 to 30 to like roll and try to help stabilize your board and stuff, but spending below that much usually makes it harder to recover your gold back, so it's best to treat 25 as kind of like an emergency floor kind of situation. Just if you're about to die and you kind of just need something to be able to get through that, you can go below there, but I wouldn't really recommend it in any situation like that. Like, I have 82 health right now. I'm perfectly fine losing the next like 4 to 5 rounds without having to spend any money, and I could use that to save up stuff. So yeah, the next tip is to have a build plan and stick to it. So at the start of each run, you'll get a mix of gold, characters, items, investment opportunities, which you select like here, or the investment environment here, and then like the investment strategies and stuff. So you can click this recommended build path up here, and it will give you some player-made builds that people have done and uploaded, and you can see how many likes they have, so you can tell which ones are actually somewhat usable and stuff. But you don't have to follow these exactly as they're written. They usually also, if you actually like click on the little strategy details, you can read. I know that might be challenging for some people, but you can read what the people write in the strategy sections here, to be able to see some potential alternatives and stuff. But it is a lot. Eventually, most of this stuff will be kind of like intuitive once you've played the game a lot and know kind of what the items are and what the builds for characters in general are. You can also click on a character and click the recommended equipment button here to be able to see items that people normally build on them. In the videos that I've showcased the builds on, you can just like look at the thumbnail, or not the thumbnail, but like if you go in to the video, I'm usually like playing the build as I'm talking about it, and then you can just look at the items that I built there and stuff. And whenever I build them, I try to explain, you know, why I'm building them, and like what they do. But yeah, it's like really important to kind of have like somewhat of a plan. You don't really want to be like changing your build path a lot. So as you can see, I'm kind of like on a follow-up attack run, so I'm just focusing on follow-up attack characters. I do have these characters on the side. I'll get into why I have them on the side later. But yeah, I'm mostly just focusing on my follow-up attack team and trying to get as many follow-up attack characters and items that will help them out as possible. And I'm also following this build guide a little bit just to know like what items I need to be looking out for and stuff for this team, even though I kind of know the general idea because I played it a few times. But yeah, just if you aren't sure, you can always use these and that will help a lot. So the next tip is to learn the difference between low and high cost carries. So I guess I can pull up the little thing that I made. So I made this kind of tier list here, which isn't like rating the characters, it's just putting them into the cost categories and stuff. So these are all the characters that you can get in Currency Wars and their coin cost. I just put them on a tier list to visualize it a little bit easier. So your lower cost carries are the 1 cost, the 2 cost, and the 3 cost. You usually play these in reroll teams, as you want to 3-star these characters if they're your carries like Sela, Himiko, Acheron, Ratio. Those are some 3-cost carries. Sunday, Saber. Finon, Saber. I'm sorry, I was looking at Sunday there. And then for your 2 costs, you got like Dan Heng, Imbibitor, Tribi, Reroll. I showed that in a video. Maide, Hyacinth, or some options. And then for 1 cost, you got like Rappa, Aglaya, who's really broken and stuff. Jade is an option as well. So yeah, regular herd up. These characters are your low cost carries, and you can reroll them so that way they can be really strong and competitive with some of the higher cost carries in terms of damage output, but they are a little bit harder to get at full power just because you've got to get a lot more copies of them than the high cost carries. But for the high cost carries, that's the 4 or the 5 cost. Usually runs that use 5 cost carries, 4 cost or 5 cost carries, will want them 2-starred at most. You can go for 3-star 5 cost and 3-star 4 cost. They're really strong, but they're not very common to see just because it's a lot more expensive to get that additional star, and it takes a lot longer to roll. But yeah, generally in my opinion, the 4 cost carries are really weak in the late game and like higher difficulty stuff. I mean, not really late game, but the higher difficulty content, they're a little bit weaker. Like Dot is pretty playable, just because Black Swan and Hyslins are really strong and work really well in the game mode. Like Debuff with Yanqing kind of works. Quantum kind of works a little bit with Sela, but she's the real carry. It's not like you're running Silver Wolf as your carry in that team. And Castoris and Herda can be good if you get like really good RNG in Wealth Creator. They can be good there. But even my like easier S1 Castoris, that's like triple S rank on Fribble's Relic Optimizer, even that's not enough to really deal enough damage to the bosses and everything in the higher difficulties of Wealth Creator, just because she's a little too AoE focused and doesn't really have a good way of stacking without proper items and stuff. So it's a little bit harder to pilot her and do well in the higher difficulties. But yeah, the playstyles of rerolling versus just like building up your team and getting the right items and stuff with the different cost carries are important to know when planning your team, so it kind of fits with the last tip as well. And then the next tip I have is how to actually reroll characters. So that's why I had this game pulled up. It's because I wanted to explain rerolling a little bit in depth because I've had a lot of questions about it specifically. So whenever you open your shop, the units that you see aren't completely random. I have this like written out, so that way I can at least stay on task a little bit here. They're pulled from a finite pool of characters based on the rarities you see down here, at the bottom of the shop. Each rarity has a limited number of units that it can pull from and stuff as well. So like with each individual cost, there's only a certain number of units. So these are all the 1 cost, all the 2 cost, all the 3 cost, all the 4 cost, all the 5 cost. And then each of the characters, there's only like a limited number of them as well. So let's say, just for simple math, that there's like 10 characters. So there's like 10 Moses in the entire shop total that could ever be generated. There's 1 here on the field, and then there are currently 2 in the shop. So yeah, each time that you roll, the shop will pull from that pool, assuming that they're still in it, and will display them here based on the percentages and everything. So to make this easier to visualize, let's simulate re-rolling for... I had a clay originally planned, but we'll just do Mo's because I'm already in a good position for it. So at level 5, each of the 5 shop slots have a 45% chance to show a 1-cost unit. And then 33% chance for a 2-cost, 20% chance for a 3-cost, and 2% chance for a 4-cost. So let's just say there's 10 copies of Modes total in the pool, and 14 different 1-cost characters, including Modes total. So to maximize your odds of finding a Mose, your goal is to remove as many of the other 1-cost from the shop as possible. So you want to thin the pool of characters by buying out other cheap units that you don't necessarily plan to use and hold them on your bench, just so that way the shop will not re-roll them while you're searching for the character that you want. Though every time that you do buy a character that you're trying to get, you're also removing them out of the pool, so there is a little bit of a trade-off there. And you do need 9 copies of a character to be able to 3-star them, so like if I wanted to roll down for Mo's here, I already have 2-star Mo's, luckily, so that just ended up being a coincidence. We'll just roll down all my gold here to try to find Mo's. I would not recommend doing this normally, but just to show how to do it. So there's another 1-cost, so we have a full bench of 1-cost because we are looking for a 1-cost character to find copies of. So yeah, as you can see, it's even though there's 33% chance for these two to be green and a 20% for them to be blue, 45% for gray, still don't always get gray, just because we have a lot of them taken out of the shop anyway. So because we're taking out a lot of the grays, that's giving more room for the green and the blue characters to spawn as well. Oh, there was a Mose. I literally just blind missed it. My bad. Oh, there's... Okay, I'm just, like, fully bricking this run anyway. It was a pretty good run, but just for the sake of this recording. I missed that one Mose, and now he's gone, too. There we go. See, sometimes you just have to say it out loud, and then they show up in your shop. There's an actual tip for you. But yeah, as you can see, we only got 1 Mose in that, and I skipped one. It was probably this same one too that I skipped, but I mean, who knows. Yeah, let's just see, can we get anything else? Yeah, so you don't want to be in this position. If you're in this position, your run's already over, and then we can like, so oh, now that one that I sold is back. There we go. I had a little thing that made it where I could roll down, and I wanted to trigger that at least to try to get a bit more rolling in. So taking out all the 1-cost to try to find Modes. We You can even just stick them on the field because I'm already throwing away this run. And then I'll get into why a 2-star Jade in a minute as well. I mean, there's kind of a reason for that. For me buying that character, at least. Okay, there's another copy of Moza. Or Moose. I'm not sure which one's actually correct for him. So. Let's see. One more. Well, we were 2 modes short of being able to get the full thing, so yeah, we can't get any extra copies, but yeah, that's just kind of the general idea of rerolling. So, some additional rerolling tips. So, when rerolling 1-cost characters, you can temporarily stick 2-star copies of characters on your bench to free up space, because it's a lot easier to have 1 2-star character than just be sitting on 2 1-star characters on your bench. But you can only really do that for the 1-cost units. If you do that with a 2-cost unit, like if I were to 2-star this Don Hung here, then if I tried to sell him, let's say it costs 6 gold to make him 2-star. If I were to sell the 2-star version of Don Hung, I would get 5 gold back, so I would actually lose out on a gold, so not worth 2-starring them. But you can still do that with the 1-cost characters, because as you can see, you get 3 gold back, and same thing if you were to 3-star them, you would get 9 gold back as well, so you can even keep them up to 3 stars on the bench if you wanted to, but that doesn't happen very often, at least. So another thing is, if you ever get a free refresh, like in my tribute video, I got a free refresh thing that kept giving me a lot of free refreshes. You want to buy out your entire shop if you have a free refresh, just because you can take them all out here, and then whenever you refresh, it will be very unlikely to be these characters, because I just took them out of the shop. It can happen, obviously, if you didn't take out every single one in the pool, but it's a lot less likely just because you literally just had them there. But if you were to leave them in there, there is still the chance that they could show up again in your shop. And then another quick tip for rerolling is whenever you're playing reroll teams, like if I were to want to play a glaive from this position, I could temporarily have a really strong team like this on field. Like, this is kind of a strong team, at least. And it might be able to clear through these stages and win streak. And I would get a little bit of extra money from win streaking. And then I could just sell all the units on field and start building my reroll team once I reach the level that I need to be to start rerolling. But yeah, and now on to non-reroll tips. So the next one is to not be afraid to slam equipment. So even though none of these items that I have are recommended here for my current characters or anything, let's just say I didn't have this, like I used that on here, and let's say none of these items are useful and I'm at 1 HP. Or maybe not 1 HP, I'm at like 15 HP. So if I were to lose this encounter, it would take me down to 1 HP and I would lose my revive, because you can get a thing that gives you a revive in this game, a one-time revive. So if I didn't want to use my revive and wanted to try to save it for the final boss, I could try to make strong items out of what I've got. Like, I know that Sela is gonna want this equipment, and I can't actually make any of that equipment, but I could make this, which is still usable on her, and give it to her temporarily to potentially be able to defeat the current stage, and then I can use one of these wrenches. You get an unlimited amount at lower difficulties. At higher difficulties, you get a limited amount of these wrenches, but you get so many throughout your run that unless you're like putting items on every character all the time, you won't actually run out of these. Like, I don't think I've ever ran out of these. Even in like Wealth Creator 20 and stuff, I never ran out. I'm pretty sure I didn't even use any in Wealth Creator 20 actually, but on the few runs that I've done of that. But yeah, just an option. If you aren't getting the items that you need, you can slam a good one on your characters. And you can see the recommended equipment here. So it'll give you the best options from your, or what it thinks is the best options in your positions. You can evaluate that yourself. And then it can also list some other recommended equipment if you don't know what all the items do. But if you do have a decent understanding of what the items do, like I know that this item here gives some extra damage whenever characters are of higher speed, and I know that Sela wants higher speed. I don't really have a good position to give her items that give her a really high speed, but I can at least give her that for now, because her innate kit gives her a little bit of extra speed with just how Sela's kit works. I believe it is... yeah, so you can get some extra speed from your skill stuff with Sela. So, just knowing how the character's kits work can also help you understand what items you need to slam in certain situations. So, the next tip is where things are going to be a little bit more niche. So, this tip is to run early traits that scale and give you some free resources. So, if you're like on stage 1-1 all the way back here, you'll get like a bunch of characters at the start of the game, and you can either use that to like try to build with what you have, or you can try to plan your build for later. But if you have like a Herda and an Asta, which is something that you can commonly get on the stage, you actually have enough characters to activate the Cosmic Scholar trait. And what this trait does is it gives you a little cake cat that will gain 4 DNA every round if you have 2 Cosmic Scholars, which is really easy to do, even all the way back here. At a certain threshold, it will level up and give you some free stuff. So you can start building up your little cake cat all the way back here on stage 1-1. That's something that I do a lot. I did it on my trivia run. Even though I was never playing Cosmic Scholar in the late game, I sold them off. I didn't have to commit any resources to get those characters or anything. And even though I lost like the rounds that I had those characters in, I was able to get a bunch of stuff, and the HP didn't even matter then, just because I was only losing like 15 HP, so I still had like around 60 HP at this point or whatever. Which was still more than enough to make it through the rest of the game perfectly fine. Another trait that you can do this with is Night Demigod, although it's a lot harder to get Night Demigod to proc. If you happen to get Cypher, Maide, Evernight, or Danheng, or Saritra, you could proc Night Demigod. I kind of forgot that these two were also a Night Demigod when I wrote that down, so I just wrote down these 3. But yeah, if you get these 3, Cypher, Maide, and Evernight, you can actually clear most of the early game enemies and stuff, just because these 3 characters are really strong early game characters. So you can actually win streak and also have a little bit of scaling that will give you some free stuff whenever it levels up. So that would be optimal, but it's a lot rare for Night Demigod to be procced early. You'll definitely get more runs where you get Cosmic Scholar for free. That gives you some free bonuses and stuff as well. So the next tip, I can actually just... well, I guess I should have forfeited that. So the next tip I can just show here really quickly, and it is XP boost. So I actually used it in this run that I played a little bit earlier in Wealth Creator to test it out. So how XP boost works is if you want to play a team like Dot that relies on 4 and 5 cost characters and doesn't really care about the early characters too much, what you can do to try to see if you can find those early characters really quickly is whenever you get into a game here, which I'll just quickly load into it and just select one of the traits at random. Okay, so we'll get our starting characters here. So, what we can do is I can sell these ones and then level up twice. So as you can see, I'm 2 XP away from level 5. My shop has a 10% chance of dropping 3-cost characters, but that's not what I want to show. So spend a little bit of gold. I don't have any money now or anything, but we'll just beat these enemies really quickly because they're all 1 HP. And this works even in higher difficulties of Wealth Creator and stuff because they always have 1 HP. And now I'm level 5, but I actually leveled up in between the rounds. So my shop here is the level 5 shop instead of the level 4 or the level 3 shop that you would normally have in this position if you didn't buy that XP. So it had a 2% chance of giving me a 4-cost character, so I could have just straight up got like a Hysolence or like a Casterus or something, like just in this shop. I actually ended up getting like a Fugue and stuff, which could be useful if I was running a build with Fugue and everything. So you can buy 2 XP boost on 1-1, and that will get you to level 5 on 1-2. And then if you were to do that, and then by the time that you make it to stage 7, which is this one here, you can buy another XP boost, and you'll reach level 6 whenever you go into this stage. So it'll happen in between, so you'll start with a level 6 shop going into this one, which the level 6 shop has a little bit higher odds of a 4-cost character, but it's where you're going to see more 2-cost characters and stuff. So if you're doing a 2-cost reroll, you could potentially level up like this to try to start finding 2-cost earlier. And then you can just level up to level 8 like right before you go to fight the boss. So after this stage, you can just level up to level 8, and you should still have around 40 gold by the time that you're playing through that. If you're leveling like that and you're not spending too much on the characters. Like, you might want to grab some characters just so that way you're not losing too hard in the early rounds and stuff, but yeah, this method just kind of accelerates you getting to higher levels faster and can give you slightly better odds of finding some of your core characters in the higher cost carry-oriented builds a bit faster. And you save a tiny bit of gold that you would spend rolling just from having the shop refresh and everything. So yeah, the next tip is to balance investment strategies. So we can just open up. Not that one, this one. So there are a lot of investment strategies, 261. There's so many different ones. They're really strong. Pretty much all of them are really strong. There's like a few ones that are weak, and there's a few that are really just situational, but most of them you can pretty much always grab and they'll be really good. But a general rule of thumb that I have for choosing investment strategies is to grab 1 economic one and 2 combat ones. So like an economic strategy could be something like this one that gives you some characters and some coins, and you can also see, you can use this to see like what planes they spawn in and see like what they do and stuff if you click on it in the tiers and everything. So usually you can grab like 1, like refreshes would be like an econ focused one, or like maybe ones that give experience. Like I don't really see here that give experience, but there are some that can give you a little bit of XP and stuff as well, and that will be an econ focused one. And then you can also then use your other 2 ones to focus on combat ones. So a combat one could be like stronger Eidolons, stronger quantum damage, more blood flame damage, more energy. I would also count this one as a combat focused one because the squad HP and like max HP and stuff helps you sustain your run a little bit longer. But yeah, my general rule of thumb is to try to grab 1 economic one and 2 combat ones. Ideally you get the economic one first because that snowballs your run a lot harder than getting the combat one first. But if you get the economic ones later, they give you a little bit more gold, and they're still really good. They just don't snowball you as quickly, but they kind of help like stabilize your gold if you spent a lot of gold early and stuff. And then the last tip that I have is to, I guess we can go back to this actually and look at the characters. So, you want to kind of understand how characters work on and off field, and what I mean by that is that in Currency Wars, you probably already know that characters are either classified into on-field, off-field, or you could also have like both on-field and off-field characters that work either way. And the way that this works in practice is that characters that only work on-field have the little indicator up here. You drag them to an on-field area, they provide their trait, and they'll be in combat and stuff. And the off-field characters, they'll still be in combat, but they won't be on the field. They'll still be able to do stuff off-field. However, if I were to take this Argenti and drag him off-field, now he has this little red indicator showing that he's supposed to be on-field, but he's off-field, and he actually won't do anything. Like, he just won't even exist, pretty much. His trait over here will still be active, but outside of that, he just won't exist. So you probably already know that about on-field characters. But off-field characters, whenever you bring them on-field, they still have the red, but I'll just show you here. Once we get into combat, as you can see, Tingyun's actually like on the field, and that was a reward stage, so hold on 1 second, let me get into actual combat. Okay, just ignore that, I'm just trying to get into combat. So once we get into actual combat, as you can see, Tingyun's actually on field. So, if you don't know how off-field Tingyun works, off-field Tingyun can only ult. That's all that she does. And Tingyun's ult gives you a little bit of energy, 50 energy, so not a little bit, but gives you some energy, and 10 more if you have her eidolons and stuff, which you probably do because she's a 4-star and she's been around forever. But also increases damage, so it is a really good buffing ultimate and stuff. Her skill gives a little bit of extra attack bonus and also will cause enemies to take a little bit of lightning damage based on that ally's attacks and stuff. And you can actually skill with Tingyun whenever you bring her on-field, even though she's an off-field character. So you have access to a move that you just didn't have access to before. It does cause you to use a skill point. That's what happens with most of the off-field characters, by the way. Like, characters like Huahua, for example, is one that you can play both on-field and off-field, like Tribi. And Tribi's another one, where they only ult whenever they're off-field. So if you're playing Huahua as your only sustain, and you're running her off-field, she actually doesn't heal your team, because all she does is ult, and her ult is not where her healing's from, it's from her skill. And with Tribi, if you're just running Tribi off-field, you lose access to Tribi's skill, which is actually pretty good if you didn't know how that one works. So if we go to abilities, so Tribi skills is what gives you a lot of ult-type res spin. You still get the ultimate, which is really good. It makes it where enemies take more damage and stuff, which is still fine, but yeah, having Tribi on-field for the ult-type res spin is still really good. Rowan Maeve's another character that is an off-field character that you can run on-field, and they will be really good. Sparkle gets to have action advance, which is something she doesn't have if you're running her off-field. And Fu Xuan actually is another really good character because the way her sustain works whenever she's on-field is much different from whenever she's off-field. Whenever she's off-field, it just spreads the damage between all your characters. Whereas if Fu Xuan's on-field, she takes all the damage herself, which can be really important in like higher difficulty stuff if you're running her with Sela and the enemies are hitting really hard because all the damage gets redirected to her instead of getting spread through everyone, which can be a little bit problematic with certain debuffs and everything in the higher difficulties. But a character that I actually recommend to play off-field more than I would recommend to play them on-field, because I would pretty much recommend any time that you can get an off-field character on-field, you should. The one character I would say that is not the case with is Evernight, just because Evernight does so much damage off-field already. Like, on-field, she gives, like, a few buffs and stuff that are pretty good, but they're not really that notable in Currency Wars. They're notable outside of Currency Wars, but in Currency Wars, like, the damage that you need to be able to clear stuff is so high that a lot of times her buffs don't really matter as much, but you're just playing as a sub DPS, and she's still able to do her job there. Same thing with, like, Mini Herda, I guess, would be another character that I would recommend more off-field than on-field. The only reason I have them on-field here is just because I was having everyone on-field for this, just to show the difference between on-field and off-field characters. But yeah, that's kind of my last tip there, is just know what characters do on-field whenever they're off-field characters to potentially be able to bring them on-field and be able to use them there. Like, I really want to try some stuff with, like, on-field Jade or on-field Himiko in this mode, because I feel like they, or there could potentially be something there. So I want to test some of that stuff out soon, but I've been doing so many Currency Wars videos on, like, traditional teams, and, like, the Tribute team was a little bit more of an untraditional one, but, like, and I'm planning on doing more, like, I want to try to do a video on, like, a Steel team and stuff, so, that will be in the work in the future, but I'm gonna stick to a few more common teams and stuff and kind of show how to play those and stuff and the harder difficulties and stuff. But yeah, that's it for my tips and stuff. If there's anything that I didn't go over that you noticed me do in a video, or if you have, like, questions and stuff, you can just ask in the comments and I'll probably respond as soon as I see it. So I'm usually checking comments pretty regularly, just because I get a notification on my phone whenever anyone comments anything, so I'm able to see it then most of the time. But yeah, I'll usually go and test it and try to respond to the best of my ability if I'm, like, able to test it if I need to. If I don't need to test it, then I'll respond pretty fast. But yeah, that's going to be it for me for now. Guess I'll see everyone in the next one.